grew up in the South Interlake. What they call a South Interlake now, at that time they really wasn't. It was just Warren on Highway 6, just northwest of Winnipeg. Well, in those days we didn't even have a gymnasium at the school. We just played mostly outdoor sports. It was baseball in the summer and hockey in the winter. And we didn't have a closed-in rink. We had the old outdoor rinks, and we had a rink at the school and a rink at the agricultural grounds. And it was called the Big Rink, but that's where I learned my hockey, on the old outdoor rinks. Probably about 5 years old, 5 or 6, at the school. I'll tell you, we used to put our skates on under our desk for a 15-minute recess, and those skates would be on, and we'd go out on the ice for 15 minutes, and we did that morning and afternoon, both recesses. So, well, we at Warren we weren't too organized until about 13 years of age, and my uncle Bruce Hogg Sr. got us kids organized. We played Bantam B was our first real team, and I had 5 cousins on that team, 5 first cousins. And we won that year. We won the provincial Bantam B championship for Manitoba.
That was out of Warren?
Out of Warren, yes. Well, actually, I started playing defense. I played defense up until midget, and even juvenile. And I don't know, somebody thought that I'd be a better winger than a defenseman, and I played all my junior as a winger. Well, yeah, I guess some good things. The good things with an open-air rink was you could jump over the boards anytime you wanted and play all day. There were no closed doors, and but we were lots of frozen feet and frozen fingers. And I can recall going home after a day on the outdoor rink with frozen feet, and I'd cry while they thawed out. My mother would put a log on the old wood stove. So, yeah. Well, we had hand-me-downs. It was all hand-me-downs. You never had any new equipment like they have now. Even our skates were hand-me-downs, and you'd get them from your brother, usually. And no, the equipment wasn't good. We had the old wooden stick shin pads, if you can recall them. And sometimes they'd be half broken. But we didn't care. Nobody had anything. We thought that was good. There just wasn't any good equipment around those days. Yes. Well, I mentioned earlier, Mr. Bruce Hogg Sr. was the one, the man that got us going. And then I had, at 15, I moved into the city. They convinced my dad that the boys should get to the city to play better hockey. And so my parents rented a house on Sherburne Street near Orioles Community Club. And the first coach I had at Orioles was a man by the name of Ted Hesselwood. And he was a good coach, and I had Jimmy Young, juvenile, and midget was, I can't recall a midget coach, and then there was the Irvin family, Jim Irvin, and they were related to the Montreal Irvins too, Alec and Jim Irvin. Oh yes, in fact we meet around Christmas time in the old Orioles group, and most of them now I've lost touch with, but that was where I first played in the city, was Orioles Community Club, and that was Bantam A, 15 years old. Well, there were some in those days. You had some kids. I know out at Warren there was a kid from Stonewall there, Monkman. He was just one of the best hockey players in Manitoba, but he wasn't. He was small. Another kid in Bantam that was one of the top hockey players in Manitoba was a fellow by the name of Brian Parker, and he played out of Treehorn, and he was just a fabulous player, eh? But he was small, and as you got further on into junior, they seemed to fall, and you'd gain new friends or new players that you knew. Well, I remember when I was 15 years old playing against Orioles, I fought a guy by the name of Wayne Larkin, and he played with the Weston team. And I was just a country kid, and so I got into this fight with Larkin, and I held my own, but I don't think I won the fight. He was a tough kid, and he grew up on the streets of Weston, and he knew how to fight. So I had to work to hold my own with him. And as we go on later, we ended up playing together and good friends. Well, we played in the old Olympic rink when I was 16 in midget and juvenile, and the strong teams were the Excelsiors and Weston and the junior Canadians, and we were always about middle of the pack. I played with the Winnipeg Baron organization, and I can recall the first year of junior with the Winnipeg Barons, we won 7 games. We got the hell beat out of us, eh? And I can recall many times going home and crawling up to my bedroom upstairs, and you never got any. There was, if you had a Charlie horse, they probably put heat on it instead of ice, that kind of thing in those days. Oh, I recall, sure, the Winnipeg outdoor rinks like Weston and Tuxedo, and of course at midget we went over a lot of our games were over in the old Olympic rink, and it was a real barn actually. They'd flood the ice in the morning, and there'd be 20 games that day, and by the end of the day, the ice was terrible, eh? It's rough, and you couldn't carry a puck, and one shower in the dressing rooms. But hey, it was indoors, and it was better than playing outside. Well, in those days, we only had the Olympic rink and the amphitheater, and we never got to play in the old amphitheater very, very much. So it was the old Olympic rink, and I can recall when I was a kid at Warren, we used to go to Stonewall. They had an indoor rink, and for us kids from Warren, that was like going to Madison Square Garden. It was a real treat. Well, the amphitheater was an old horse barn, as you know, probably, and but the ice was good, and they used to flood the ice with the barrels, and there was no Zambonis in those days. But we never got to play in the old amphitheater too much. It was about that time that the new arena had started, and we, as I'll talk a little later, our second year junior that I played with the Winnipeg Braves, we played out of the Winnipeg Arena. I can recall in about 48 going to Toronto with my parents, and we watched a game in Maple Leaf Gardens, and that was fantastic. They used to have, like I mentioned earlier, Teeter Kennedy, and there was always a fan that went to the games that would be "Come on, Teeter," and that was a favorite. You'd hear that all over Maple Leaf Gardens. He was a favorite. I had all the pictures of all the teams, the old St. Lawrence cornstarch pictures, and I had them all. Montreal, I always liked Montreal, Canadians, and I liked their players. And of course, I was from the old school. We used to, on Saturday night, we'd curl down by the old radio and listen to Foster Hewitt from Toronto, from the gondola. Yeah. Well, I liked Big John Beliveau. I thought Big John was one of the greatest players ever, and I like Doug Harvey. Uh, uh, and I like some of the Toronto players like Teeter Kennedy and those guys. I'm going back a long ways now. Yeah. Well, like I mentioned earlier again, I played with the Winnipeg Barons, which were the old Winnipeg Blackhawks, and played midget with them. I was an all-star midget, Winnipeg all-star midget with the Barons, and I played with the Baron Juveniles. I was an all-star player, Winnipeg all-star with them. And then the last 2 years of my junior career, I played with the Winnipeg Braves, which were owned by the Perrin family. Well, with the Winnipeg Braves, we had a lot of talent on that team. When I look back now, there were so many talented players on that team. Gary Bergman was very talented. My two line mates were very talented, Bobby Leader and Alan LeBlanc. He was a young man from Marathon, Ontario, and he was a beautiful hockey player. He was quick and smart. And, of course, we had Ernie Wakely. He was a great goaltender. Louis Mueller. We had 4 good defensemen on that team. We had Dougie Monroe, Louis Mueller, Gary Bergman, and Teddy Green on that Memorial Cup team. And they played the whole. It was just 4 defensemen. They were wonderful defensemen. Moved the puck up real well. Not really, John. That year, we just missed out the previous year with the St. Boniface Canadians. Jerry Crook scored a goal and beat us out, but the next year we were ready, and but there was only one sports writer in all of Canada, I was told, that really picked the Braves, who said the Braves had a chance, and that was Uncle Vince Lee. And because he used to watch us kids over at the old Olympic rink, he was always there. He said we had a chance, and but the Eastern writers, when it come to the Memorial Cup, the Eastern writers, they never gave us a chance. It was a waste of time for Peterborough to come out and even play the series. That's what they thought. Well, getting out of the MJHL, that was tough. We had a tough series against St. Boniface. We didn't like each other. And Jack Perrin owned both teams. They were both feeder teams for his Warrior team. So we got by them, and no, first of all, I should say we got by the Brandon Wheat Kings. We beat them 4 straight, and then we played St. Boniface Canadians, and it was a tough series, but we got out of it, and then of course we had to play the Flin Flon Bombers. They were the Saskatchewan junior champions, and we went up to Flin Flon, and we weren't expected to beat them, I don't think. We lost both games up there. They were close games, but we felt we could beat them, and we got them back to Winnipeg, and we beat them 4 straight. They were about 20 pounds heavier per player, but we were quicker. And they had some good players that they picked up, of course. In fact, myself personally, I had a chance to go there in '57. They were rebuilding from their Memorial Cup winner in '56, '57. So Bobby Kirk come down, and he wanted me to go to Flin Flon for the last 2 years of my junior career, and my parents didn't think I should go. And of course, they paid their players. In those years, they were sponsored by HBM&S, and the players got $400 a week, I guess, or a month. It would be a month, $400 a month, which was huge money in those days. Well, from there, we like I say, we knocked them off 4 straight back here, and that was a tough series, very tough series. And then, of course, we only had about 3 days or 4 days to get ready for the Eastern winter, which was Peterborough Pete's. The young man who coached the Pete's was a man by the name of Scotty Bowman. He was 25, 26 years old, and he had had a bad head injury with Montreal. He played in the Montreal chain. So Montreal looked after him real well. But they had two junior clubs. They had the Montreal Junior Canadians and the Peterborough Petes. And the Petes were a very good team. The Eastern Riders didn't give us a chance because they were what they called a juggernaut, and they beat St. Michael's, they beat Barrie Flyers, they beat Guelph Biltmores, and then they beat the Junior Canadians. So we didn't know what to expect, but anyway, we lost the first game, and then we swept the next four. Well, the first game was played in the Winnipeg Arena, and we gave them a good game, but they were the better team, and but we felt after that first game that we could beat them. The feeling in the room was we can beat these guys, and so we were a very determined team, and we did. We beat them. Yeah, I had 2 goals in the first 3 games, and then I played well. I guess I played well. I scored well anyway. But I had two wonderful line mates, and so then we ended up in Brandon, beating the Petes. Oh, the crowds were terrific crowds. We had over 10,000. And the old arena was just packed. It was just packed, and there was one of the games. There was a snowfall, about 6 inches of snow fell, and people had a tough time getting to the arena for the game, but there was still 6,000 there. Yeah, and it was big crowds. Well, I thought I had a career ahead of me, being the Memorial Cup winner and doing well in that. And but I think one thing that held me back was I had wore contact lenses in those days, and if you wore contact lenses, it was, you couldn't see. Basically, that's what they said. I had poor sight, so. Anyway, I tried out with the Warriors, with the Winnipeg Warriors, and I didn't make them, and went and played minor pro in the U.S. Yes, the C-form was there, and I had a player or a hockey player by the name of Eddie Shore came to our house on Sherbrooke Street, came right to the house, and he wanted to, sat down with my parents, and he wanted me to sign a C form. And he was persistent, but I had heard so many bad things about Eddie Shore tying up hockey players. I didn't sign. It was $100, and $100 for a kid was quite a bit of money in those days. But I didn't sign with him. He was quite upset that I didn't sign with him. But once you signed a C form, you were kind of a hockey slave. You were tied up to whoever you signed with. Well, he was quite a man. He was tough old bird. He was all scars, and he was used to getting his own way. And but he was a gentleman with my parents and that. But anyway, he was pretty upset that he'd come to Winnipeg and he didn't get me to sign a C for him. Well, I was tied up with Eddie Shore a little bit, but mostly with the Perrin family, Jack Perrin. But after I went to the minor leagues, I played with the Minneapolis Millers for 2 years. I really liked it there, and I played in the International League for 6 years. Well, Alf Pike was the coach, and Mosienko was there in those days, and Danny Summers and Freddie Shero was there. And I thought I had a chance. In those days, they never looked at you for too long. You might get 2 or 3 game tryout, and if you didn't do well, then you were kind of forgotten about. Like these players now, they go 20, 30 games, 40 games without scoring a goal. In those days, if you didn't score when you were called up or had a chance, I mean, you were probably dropped. You're right. You're exactly right. And I was just a raw kid, and Alf Pike started me on left wing, I think it was. I was normally a right winger, but he started me on left wing, and before the game started, I looked across the red line, and who's standing there but Mr. Howe? And he took off his glove and he shook my hands. He said, "Have a good game, kid, eh?" And I never forgot that. And but he was a tough man to play against. And of course, I was just awed that I was even out there against him. But I scored a goal on Terry Sawchuk, I think, if I recall correctly, that game. And I hit the post once. And I don't know. It's I had my chances, I guess, when I look back. And in those years, like the NHL, the big teams they might only make 2 or 3 changes a year, and there just wasn't any room with the old 6-team league. It was, and it was tough as a young kid breaking in those days. You had to be a really exceptional player, to make the National Hockey League in those years, because there just wasn't room, and there wasn't. The good teams didn't make many changes from year to year. My first year in the International League was with the St. Paul Saints, and Freddie Shero was the coach of the Saints that year. I tried out with them and didn't make the Saints, so they shipped me down to Milwaukee. Played in Milwaukee for a while until the team folded. And a fellow by the name of Kenny Yackel had seen me play, so he picked me up. And I played 2 years with the Minneapolis Millers for this man called Ken Yackel, who was an American, and I really liked him. And he was a very good player. He'd played with Providence in the American League for quite a few years, but a fine man. And there was great rivalry between Minneapolis and St. Paul in those years. Great rivalry. The old St. Paul arena, downtown St. Paul, would be packed for the Minneapolis and St. Paul games. No, I liked to play. The only time, I guess, was when the team folded in Milwaukee. I thought, well, what am I doing down here? I better get home and get a job. This is no good. But then I played 6 years or 7 in the International League, and I had a young family at home, and they were getting to be school age, and I thought, well, this isn't. I better get something. I better settle down, and so I quit at 28. I didn't go back. I was playing in Des Moines, Iowa, at that time, and I decided to quit. Now they phoned me till Christmas time, and they wanted me to go down. The money it was getting a little better every time, and they sent me plane tickets and everything. But I stuck it out, and because of my young family, and as it turned out, with my family, it was the right decision when I look back now. Well, yeah, that was to get one by Terry Sawchuk was, and I can remember the shot. I shot hard, hard on the ice, right along the ice, and I remember that going in, and then I hit the post too on another chance, but that I remember. Money, and I think that's a lot of the problem, in my own personal opinion, is money. The players, I feel, are getting too much. The owners are paying them too much. Um, like when we played, I think the love of the game maybe has been lost a little bit. We played because we just loved the game. In fact, sometimes I say the owners didn't pay us that much, but they didn't realize that we would have probably played for nothing. You've heard that one before, maybe. But and it's the size of the players now, the speed and the sizes, and that's been the biggest change I think that I can see. Well, I guess there was a player here from Winnipeg that played in Fort Wayne, Indiana, a chap by the name of Len Thornton. Len Thornton. He played for the Fort Wayne Comets. Played for years with him. Very, very talented player. Maybe a little bit slow, otherwise he could have played in the NHL. Very smart. And I had two talented players that I played with on my line with the Braves. I mean, Bobby Leader, he was very talented, very good with the puck, and he would give me that puck just when I wanted it. And on the other side, left wing, Ali LeBlanc, he was very, very talented player, but a little bit on the small side. Otherwise, he could have made pro easily. Well, the toughest, I think, would have to be the captain of the Braves, Winnipeg Braves, the Memorial Cup team, Wayne Larkin. John Ferguson will tell you that he fought him, and he was the toughest man that John Ferguson ever fought, he claims. I would say he was the toughest that I can recall in those years. Teddy Green, probably. I played against him, and he wasn't a nice player to play against. And Teddy and I got to be good friends later on, but he was not a nice player to play against. It was wonderful. It took me a year to get my amateur card back in those days. Uh, you had to apply to get your amateur card back with the Canadian Amateur Hockey Association. And I went and played with the old Selkirk fishermen out at Selkirk in the Manitoba Senior League. And in those days, the Senior League was good. There was a lot of good players in the Senior League. And so I got my amateur card there back. And I got $50 a game. And I had a young family, and I had a job. And that came in handy. It's probably 2 games a week, so it bought some groceries. I was about 27, and I had to get out of the game and get a regular job because I had a young family, and so I had to make a decision. It was a hard decision for me to make, but as I mentioned earlier, I made the right decision when I look back. I was it was tough to quit. It was tough to quit, but I knew I had to quit. I could have gone back and probably played another 5 years, but I had to get established somewhere. So, and I seen a lot of players that hung on too long and what they call drifters, players that had come down from the National League and American League, and they were bums. Really, they were bums. They got into alcohol and different things, and so I seen some of those guys, and I didn't want to be like them. No, not really. I got into senior hockey with the Selkirk Fishermen, and I played with them, and then I had a chance to go down to Morden in the Southeastern League as playing coach, and they paid me $50 a game too. But I wore out a car running back and forth, and uh, and after that I quit playing there. I had a chance to maybe coach a little bit with the St. James Junior Canadians for 2 years. I enjoyed those 2 years. I had a good bunch of kids, and was it the first year, I think, or the second year we went up again in the MJH final. We went up against the Portage Terriers, 1973, and that was the Terrier team that won the Centennial Cup that year. They beat us 4 straight. They were just too strong for us. But I enjoyed my years as coaching with the Junior Canadians. Oh, many, 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 and a lot of those friendships are I still have them, and I've lost a lot of the players that I played with that are gone. But yeah, some you can get very close. You're very close with. My career outside of hockey was I was in the construction equipment industry. And my dad, at 17 years old, my dad said, "Come on, son, I'm taking you to the city. You're going to get a job. You're not going to be hanging around town here and doing nothing all summer." So he brought me into a company called Kane Equipment, and I worked for them for 3 years during my junior days. In those days, in my junior days, you had to have a job pretty well. And I was on my feet for most of those games before I played a game, and man, I was pretty tired at times. But and then after I quit playing hockey, I came back to the construction equipment industry, and I was in that for 42 years. I was in that business. Yeah, I guess it did. Well, in those years, you didn't bounce around. If you had a good steady job with the company, you stayed with them, and you didn't move around, not as much as young people do now. But they were good to me overall when I look back. Well, the Junior Braves, the Memorial Cup team, we had a 30-year reunion, which was our biggest one, and we had Jack Wells and Jack Matheson, and we invited all those people. Stu McPherson, I think, was even there, and that was a good reunion. But then we've had some other reunions, but it's kind of starting to die down a little bit now. A lot of the players are gone, and it's a little different. It influenced me on how to work, and seemed like hockey was a tough business. Even then, you were expected to perform, and you were expected to win, and there was pressure, and I said that after I'd quit playing hockey, I thought I can do anything now. I've got through hockey. There's no job that I couldn't really do well at. So I think it influenced me in that way. Aches and pains, but no, I come through it pretty good. I had no broken bones, or I had a few concussions, minor concussions. In those days, you never said anything if your eyes went blurry after a hit, eh? And we didn't wear helmets. I got a scar on the top of my head right now from a stick from a player. It's still there, but I can recall having a few times going to the bench with blurred vision, and but you didn't say anything. You didn't say anything that you had blurred vision. It just waited until it cleared. But no, I really have had no serious effects from hockey.